This Victor Auraspeed 90K2 is so different to the original 90K, especially when I've tried and tested both the 3U and the 4U models. Let me tell you why. This video is sponsored by Central Sports. You all know that I rate the original Auraspeed 90K very highly. If you've not watched my in-depth review, it's here. But this second generation of the Auraspeed 90K2 makes things a lot more complex simply because it is so different. I also want to say thank you to Fong who loaned me his 3U model here for testing. Visually, you can see a clear departure from the previous design, which I thought looked a bit dated. This second generation of 90K, on the other hand, looked like it's trying to give out some hip-hop vibes and even reminds me of Venom from Spider-Man. Lots of random streaks and splashes of silver all around the racket frame and shaft area. I'm not sure you'll win the best looking racket of the year award, but I do think it's an upgrade compared to the previous generation. Those of you that have an eye for detail will also notice there's quite a few changes visually to the racket already, starting with the semi-transparent butt cap and change to Victor's free core proprietary handle instead of the traditional wooden handle. I've certainly covered quite a few Victor badminton rackets here with free core handles, and I'm a fan of the handles themselves. Victor is certainly transitioning many of the top end rackets towards all the free core handles. Additionally, you might also notice that the 90K2 is now made in China instead of Taiwan, as per the original 90K. This shouldn't have any impact on performance as Victor's thruster Ruger, both Ruger 1 and Ruger 2 rackets are already produced in China and they've been pretty good, so no issues there. Lastly, I do want to make a note that there's a slight change to the racket frame visually, especially at the top 12 o'clock area compared to the original generation, and it's related to the Victor's dynamic sword frame design. So Victor mentions that the dynamic sword design has indentations in specific areas of the racket frame to help with airflow, but the second generation 90K's 12 o'clock region is certainly super smooth compared to the original 90K. Changes to the handle as well as the updates to the frame profile will certainly impact playing feel, so keep watching to find out. In terms of measurements, I do want to mention that the Auraspeed 90K 1 and 2 are both measured at 679mm in length, meaning they're slightly longer than your usual racket. For example, normal rackets are generally 670mm in length, like Yonex Astrox 88S Play, and higher end rackets are generally around 675mm. Hence the word +5 or +10mm is often used in marketing. But the Auraspeed 90Ks are at 679mm, meaning they're on the limit as regulations allow for up to 680 in length. In terms of frame, I measured the 90K2 in both 3U and 4U to have the same height of 24cm and a width of 18.8cm, which means they're slightly wider than the original 90K at 18.5cm. In terms of frame thickness, the 90K2 had a thickness of 10.1 and 10mm respectively for the 3U and 4U models. Again, slightly thicker than the original generation at 9.9mm. The frame did retain its 40% recessed profile on both sides for both the 90K2s. And talking about frames, remember to protect your precious badminton racket frames with the premium racket protection tape from scratches and chips on ckydw.com/shop. Free delivery worldwide, and they're worth it. In terms of shaft, the 90K2s had the same shaft length as the previous generation at 21cm, but it was slightly thicker in diameter with the 3U coming in at 7.2mm, while the 4U 90K2 measuring it at 7mm. The original version had a shaft diameter of 6.9mm. In terms of handles, the 90K2 models did have a free core handles, obviously as mentioned before, but at the same length of 17cm as the previous generation. In terms of stringing, the 3U 90K2 is rated up to 31 pounds in tension and the 4U model is rated to 30 pounds, which is an increase of 1 pound compared to the previous generation. No issues with stringing whatsoever, and I had them strung to my usual string setup of Yonex Aerobyte at 27 by 29 pounds. Thank you to Central Sports for sponsoring today's video, as well as loaning me their 4U Victor Auraspeed 90K2 as well. They have been the home of badminton in the UK for more than 40 years, and it's a one-stop shop for every badminton player, whether you're just getting started, a regular club player, or competing at the highest level. Central Sports will cater to all your badminton needs, and you can buy rackets from all your favorite brands with free upgrades, including a free custom autograph on your racket where you can have a flag and some custom text. Additionally, you can also get shoes, shuttles, strings, bags, and bespoke teamwear all at the same time. You can also check out the store in person or online, and remember to use my discount code of CKYW for additional discounts. Thank you again to Central Sports. In terms of playing feel, I always enjoy coming across a racket that has lots of fun factor, especially the ones that you get excited playing with and they feel like an extension of your arm. Head-heavy rackets should wow you with the power they help you generate, and speedy rackets should excite you with their speed. The original 90K had that fun factor where it was super fun and easy to play, where I was able to get away with so much trouble, and that was fun. The Auraspeed 90K 2 isn't exactly that. Straight off, it feels head heavier compared to the original 90K, and it doesn't feel as fast too. I was surprised at the difference in speed between the 4U original 90K and the 3U 90K 2. I've had the 3U model to test for quite a while and it just felt weighty compared to the original. Bearing in mind the original 90K was crisp, fast and had amazing feel with not a lot of headweight. And from my multiple tests, it felt like the 3U model had negated the original 90K's speciality in speed and instead had been replaced and given a lot more power. It felt very similar to my usual Astrox 88D Pro or even like a mini Ryuga 2. Because of this, I then waited for the 4U model to become available in the UK before testing again. And the 4U model was indeed faster compared to the 3U, but still felt that it had quite a bit more headweight compared to the original 90K. Hence, more power was given to the second gen 90K at the expense of speed here. And from this feeling, I mounted the rackets onto the Yonex Precision Scan swing weight machine and ran some measurements. All rackets here are gripped the same usual way as I normally do and are all strung with Aerobite, as I wanted some consistency here. The numbers that I wanted to focus on is the raw swing weight. So the original 90K ended up with a swing weight measurement of 89 kilograms per centimeter square, and because I tested the 3U 90K 2 model first, it measured 91.5, which coincidentally was similar to my 4U Astrox 88D Pro. Bearing in mind there was a 5 gram difference in total weight, but these measurements didn't match how I felt when I was playing with the 90K 2 in 3U. The 4U version also measured more swing weight than the original 90K, and all of that matched with how I felt. Additionally, the 90K 2 also felt slightly softer compared to the original model. Imagine the original 90K was an 8 or 8.5 out of 10 in terms of crispness. The 90K 2 dropped 1 point in that regard, so it's now about 7 to 7.5 out of 10 in my opinion. I think with the incorporation of the free core handles, Victor perhaps had reduced the ultimate stiffness of the 90K 2 by just a little to help more players with power generation with this racket. This move also complements the slight extra headweight as well. The slightly softer feel reduces the demands of timing and technique for players, so it opens up the racket to a wider range of players to execute a good shot. Personally, I enjoy the 4U 90K 2 more than the 3U because it is more responsive and I didn't feel like I needed that extra power. If I wanted more power, I would have gone for a slightly heavier racket in 4U instead of a 3U racket. I guess if you're old school and are dead set on retaining and playing with 3U racket, go for this. It certainly does have a lot of power, and if you want to have a stiffer feeling, perhaps increasing your string tension slightly might help. However, if given a choice between the 3U or 4U 90K 2 and the original 90K, I would continue with the original 90K, as the original 90K provides me with lots of fun factor, where the shuttle is so responsive and shots are so easy to play. I felt the second generation 92 just lost a little bit of that fun factor and just feels like another regular high-end racket. Don't get me wrong, it's a very good racket, but it didn't have that excitement factor for me anymore compared to the original 90K. If you're someone who hasn't tried any of the 90Ks before, go for the second gen 4U version if the original version isn't available, and you'll get yourself something pretty fast with decent power. I'll see you in the next one.